Hello to the online audience. I'm here with Alex Impey of CoCity, who's very kindly agreed to join me for a quick chat. Good to see you again.
Good afternoon, Phil.
I'm sure they all heard your presentation yesterday, but just tell us a bit about CoCity, the history, and why you're doing it.
Yeah, no worries. Do you want me to stand up and we do a little bit of exercise first?
No, we'll stay sitting down. The cameraman will have a heart attack if you do that.
No problem. So, yeah, I think CoCity, we just went recently through a rebrand, and before that we were known as USA. And, we're a fairly young SME. And as I mentioned yesterday, we're very much a niche developer as well. So we focus on repurposing existing and underutilised real estate across the UK. But more importantly, we then turn that real estate into community-centred live, work, play experiences. And they tend to be focused on 18 to 30-year-olds or a lifestyle of that kind of demographic. We're definitely not age exclusive. And, our whole mission is about repurposing the way people live, work and play. And, that's really important to us. And it's that community element which kind of knits things together. And the reason why we did this, we sat down a couple of years ago and deconstructed the problem for this demographic. And what we found was that the pressures of living in modern society today are just so overwhelming. And not just from a housing perspective. How do you live affordably? You've got crippling levels of debt, social economic problems all around us, as well as the well-being elements, right? From a mental health perspective to a physical health perspective, all of these add up. And, the youth of today and that demographic have the poorest quality of life, yet they have to pay the most compared to any generation that's ever existed. It's a crazy fact. So we were thinking, okay, how do we create a development? How do we create a lifestyle for people that can help reduce that pressure and really help?
Okay. So what sort of buildings are you looking at that are easy for you to convert? What are the ones that maybe give us a couple of examples of ones that you're working on in terms of the type of properties? Because I guess if anybody's listening out there that has these sorts of properties that needs development expertise like yours, they ought to get in touch, I guess.
Definitely. So we love but ugly buildings.
Okay.
That's a technical term. I'm not sure. Was it BUB? But
students that are maybe used to that sort of shared accommodation, they've either had an old-fashioned shared student housing, or my daughter's just gone through university and she's gone through 3 student accommodation blocks in each year because she decided to stay within that. So she's used to having her own space, but then that shared space that she can interact with others. Is that sort of similar model? Or how?
Yeah, very much so. So at the very heart, we created this new category of real estate, and it's called community-centred flexible living. Community for obvious parts, but the flexibility is what really makes us something unique. And we look at the flexibility of tenureship. That's really vital. I could quote millions of facts about why we need diverse tenureships to help, increase that supply of good quality housing. That was what we talked about yesterday. But in terms of, to answer your question, we look at social housing. So we do not exclude that, and we make sure we do not stigmatise. There's no, social housing entrance, private entrance. We bring everyone together. It's pepper potted, blind tenureship. We've got co-living. Which is more of your student, and it's the next level from a student side.
Yeah.
We've got private rental, we've got shared equity, and then we've got home ownership. And the idea being that, you're on this journey, but you can choose or level up, if that's a popular term these days, when you want to and when you can do, and you take this journey, but at the same time, you never lose the community around you. You never lose that workspace. You never lose the people who are growing with you, but you can take that journey from a social to a co-living, and then you might find a partner and you go into a private rental, and then you might save a deposit and go into a shared equity piece, and beyond from there. So that for us is really important. And the other element kind of brings it all together, because mixed use, mixed tenure is super important for us. The mixed use is the best of commercial and the best of residential. So we create what are called collisions, and to create these collisions between commercial and residential, internal community, external community. And we created something called the community street. And that's where these interactions happen, allow people to collide. It's a great place for commerce.
Collisions, it's a great expression. But also, I sort of follow your logic there, because you want people to collide. You need people to collide. So you're actually finding a way of designing place and shaping place so that these collisions happen as naturally as possible and as often as possible.
Bingo. So spatial design is massive for us, and we spend a lot of time and cash working with spatial design experts in co-living schemes and with architectures to say, okay, well, how do you create that best interaction, not just for one point, but throughout the day, the evening, and then the life cycle of the building, right?
Yeah.
Because what you don't want to do is what a lot of developers do is, right, okay, well, we'll put a foosball table there, or we'll put we'll put a quirky seat and stand there. Nobody uses it, right? Because it's not being thought about. And so it's about thinking about your residents and creating value for them.
So it's got to be current. It's also, I guess, with the demographic that you're appealing to, we've got to be quite cool. It's got to have that sort of cultural edge to it, because, you know, there's a bit of competition in this market. You're partly re-educating the market with a product that there isn't much around. That doesn't exist. There you go, exclusive. But so how are you? You're a damn sight closer to the demographic than me, but how are you making sure? How are you making sure that 80 to 30-year-olds, you know, is thinking, wow, this is cool, I want to live there?
Yeah, so I mean, we did a lot of survey tests. So we've got Generation Y, also known as millennials, which is what I am, and then you've got Generation Z, which is a new age group coming through. And so we went to all groups and asked them, you know, what was important for you? You know, what would you want out of a scheme? And we explain what we've tried to create, and that's really close. That's really important for us. But what's really even more important, pivotal to the success of us, is our community, right? So coming back to this new category of real estate, which is community-centered flexible living, the community is super important. So when you want to build a community, the real key to doing it properly is creating story. And as a developer, you don't want to create 100% that story. You want to create 90% of the narrative and let them then build the last 10%, because that creates buy-in, right? Then you get true collaboration. Okay. When they feel like they've got ownership of a space and what's happening, then something really magical occurs. And we see a lot of examples like that in Burning Man. You know, that's probably one of the most successful communities, self-built communities in the world. And, you know, we're not saying we're going to create Burning Man in our developments, would be quite cool. But it's that similar ethos, right?
Yeah, okay. So tell us a bit about Alex, the brains behind of this. How old are you? What's your background?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. So I'm just turned 36, so I'm still in that age demographic just.
I thought you were younger, actually, but there you
I'll
go.
take that. Thank you very much, Phil. I'll have that. I'll pay you that cash later on.
Yeah.
But so my life is a little bit interesting. The reason why I got into this was I've experienced every single tenureship that we offer. Social housing, all the way through co-living, student, home ownership. And I've seen the really good points and the really bad points of every single one of them. And I knew that there was a better way to do that. Remove stigmatization from social housing, which is probably the number one issue associated with social housing right now. And then also, how do we knit everything else together to create that flexibility of a user that they can go through life not having to worry or stress or lose this community element. So for me, you know, I've been through that. And in my own journey, you know, I'm from Hartlepool, which is in the northeast of England. We're affectionately known as monkey hangers. I will not go into that story because that's a separate topic. And then I studied in Newcastle, mechanical engineering. And then I embarked, probably a bit of a contentious job right now, as a mechanical engineer for an oil and gas company, which was Shell, which is now an energy company. And so I travel around the world, building resilient infrastructure, managing massive projects, design, solving problems, all across the world. And that kind of led me into property and what we're doing now. And, you know, I always had that idea of how do we bring these solutions together, and how can we do that in property in the UK?
So the future for CoCity, how will you scale it up, or how much scale do you want to achieve? And I guess the second part of that question is, you know, I alluded to the fact that you're interested to talk to people that maybe have properties that might be up your street. But again, the supply chain that will be listening to this, that will be keen to think, yeah, how can we help you refurb? How can we help you design this space? Okay. So talk us about what the future looks like.
So I guess I'll look at the camera here. Our stakeholders, we've got our residents, which are front and center, as you would imagine. We've then got social enterprises, which are local authorities, your RSLs, RPs, and then we've got our investors, commercial and private. And so investors are very important for us to scale, as you can imagine. So if you're an investor and you're interested in having a chat, then, for social impact, then please reach out. But looking at the other side as well as to say, how are we going to scale? Our plan, we're just ramping up now, and we're looking to build our hub sites, which are right in the city centre, very compact, this model of community centre flexible living in 16 different cities across the UK. So Aberdeen is one, with Glasgow, Edinburgh, and then very much what you would expect the main cities to be in England and Wales, right? Yeah. And we put a real focus on where the younger demographic are, where you've got a large population coming in and growing, and you want the retention of skills. So that's why we want to work with local authorities who know that this retention of skills is key. And us working in partnership with investors, with local authorities and other developers. We're an SME, we're not a big player like many guys in the room today. We need those partnerships, long-term partnerships, to help us succeed.
Okay, right. So there we go. There's some interesting opportunities there, I think. So, well, look, I wish you luck. Thanks for taking time to talk to me now. I'm going to ask one of my colleagues to put your details in the chat if we can, just to make that very, very obvious. But I'll make sure that I do join the chat as well when afterwards, just to make sure it's very easy for you to get in touch.
Tom could have got a little close-up on, but never mind.
Yeah, we'll do that next time. But I'll let you grab some lunch. So it's good to see you again.
Thanks again,
Thanks
Phil.
very much, Alex.